Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Well, welcome back to the Cory Lee Show, guys. We have another exciting episode today. I got to introduce y'all to two new friends. It's going to be a good conversation. I got Kurt and Kristen Ludhart with me today, and I just want to kind of give a little bit of an intro to them. I kind of looked them up and was doing some research on them, and I love some of the things that they're doing, and just kind of give you guys an idea of what all they have going on. So their background, they are co-founders of the Prosper Group, and they are leader and experts in the digital marketing and conservative advocacy since '06. Their firm has played a pivotal role in electing, y'all check this out, 103 members of Congress, 15 U.S. senators, 15 governors, 1 president, and their innovative strategies have garnered numerous accolades, including recognition on Inc. magazine's 500 fastest growing companies. Kristen, as she was the president, she led impactful digital strategies for Trump for president and other high-profile campaigns, while Kurt, as the CEO, he's known for his strategy, his vision, and his client relationships. Today, they actually have a new business that they are going to talk about, and we are going to talk about Liberty Spenders. And it's really just interesting hearing before we got going some of the things that you guys are doing with that. But before we jump in, I just want to say, Kurt and Kristen, welcome to the Cory Lee Show.
Thank you.
Great to be here, Cory.
Yeah, man, that's some really exciting things that you guys have going on, and I really just love your energy and the passion that you guys have. As we got to talk before we got started, I know our listeners are as well, and so that's kind of where you guys are. That's some of the things that you're doing. Can you take us on a journey a little bit? How did you go from wherever you were to where you are today? Kind of take us on your journey that you guys had.
Well, first, I feel like we got to live up to that intro. I mean, I don't think we wrote that, but that was pretty good, pretty impressive, Cory. So, yeah, we have to live up to the standard that has now been set. But yeah, our journey, I'll actually kick it to Kurt as as a good husband and wife duo. We know who speaks best to these things, and I tend to be a little long-winded. So, Kurt can give you the short version.
Well, I'll tell you, Chris and I met in college in the College Republicans. So we knew from the very beginning. We were both kind of political nerds. And after we graduated, I guess the longer version, after I graduated, we're getting married. And although I had forever thought I was going to work for a politician directly, like maybe my job would be as a campaign manager or chief of staff, I'd never really thought about business before. But we're getting married and we need to make money for our wedding, and we're very kind of crazy people. We wanted to do it big, and our families weren't kicking in, extravagant amounts of cash. We thought we need to make money for the wedding. And one of our political contacts said, well, you're getting married in August. You should sell fireworks in July to make money for the wedding. And he
of course. Why not? Isn't that what everybody thinks?
And he had a connection, and he says, I'll set you up in a situation and you can make the money you need. So we did it. We actually managed 3 fireworks tents that were put up in Walmart and Target parking lots in the Indianapolis area. And it was our first glimpse at entrepreneurship, and never really considered running my own business in that way. And then we made $10,000 in that week period selling fireworks. And I remember thinking, maybe we ought to own a business instead of, working, because that would have been at that time half a year's salary,
Nearly, yeah.
Yeah, my first job out of college, I made $24,000, and I made $10,000 basically in 10 days. We did it the following year again. and did $25,000 because they put us in a different location. The company we were selling for put us in the Philadelphia area, which is a whole wild story. At some point, we got arrested and nearly imprisoned, and it's a pretty wild story. But that all contributed to having that giant. We sold $120,000 worth of fireworks there in 10 days, and netted about 25 grand. And at that time, I just remember thinking, I'm never going to work for somebody else, not as a long-term gig ever again. That's actually how we started our business. We had our political education background, and we'd done work in politics. We met there, but we learned about business, started our business as a fireworks couple. And then we thought we need something in the winter to do, because the fireworks, that's just summer, maybe New Year's, but it's really just summer in the US. So let's do Christmas lights in the winter, right? Because that's seasonal. So we'll do fireworks when it's hot outside. We'll put Christmas lights up when it's cold out. And we did another $80,000 in 2006, putting up Christmas lights at people's homes. And we actually did that year. We actually put up Christmas lights at one of the biggest houses in Indianapolis. And the guy who owned it also owned the rights to the National Lampoon's franchise. So we thought it was cool. It was almost like we were doing Chevy Chase's Christmas lights.
Nice.
It took us 8 days to do that guy's house. And that's what started our entrepreneurial journey. And then funny, we thought, well, when we're not doing Christmas lights and fireworks, we need to go back to political consulting, and we'll fill in the gaps with it. But by 4 years later, in 2010, the political marketing and consulting work that we were doing had now eclipsed the fireworks and the Christmas lights. I distinctly remember sitting with Kristen at a restaurant in Carmel, Indiana, saying, and that was my plan to persuade her, we're going to stop doing fireworks and Christmas lights and just do the politics first full time. And we did that year and had a breakout year for our political consulting firm. That was 2010.
Yeah, well, it was really in 2009, and I'm laughing because I thought he would tell the short version, and he told the long version. So, wow.
Hey, I'm all in the story, though.
Yeah.
Taken that question, because I would have cut out 75% of that. But it's true. We were doing political work in Indiana, where we live. And in 2009, there are no campaigns. And so we literally got in a car and we were driving all over the country to drum up business. We'd sleep in the car. We had no money. And we did have a breakout year that year. And so that's what really catapulted us and got us really on the map nationally. Because in the business we've been in, if you're not somehow tied in or networked in DC, in Washington, DC, you can't get business. And we absolutely weren't. We still aren't. We still are based in Indiana, and that's still how we grow our business. And so it was very contradictory, I suppose, to most people's journey if they're in politics. But I think it really served us, because we absolutely have that entrepreneurial vibe, and that has remained true. And so it's kind of weird when you think about, so what were you doing? So you didn't start off doing this, you were doing this. And I mean, it makes no logical sense, but that also is how God works sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you guys still do fireworks?
No, in fact, I've never been a fireworks guy, really.
Yeah,
I was selling a product that I wasn't particularly passionate about. Now, my wife, however, Kristen, she loves fireworks.
Yeah.
She'd go every Friday night to watch fireworks if there was fireworks going. So we loved that part. But I love more the entrepreneurial energy of it, right? Because it was 10 days, sell everything you can sell, and just move this product. And so we were really aggressive when we were doing it, which I think the company we were selling their brand, the company they just really loved us. They came and visited our location in person and wanted to see what we were doing. And I think the answer was we were just crazier than everybody else they worked with.
I mean, we'd mark up the prices. It's TNT fireworks, which you will see sold in Walmarts and places.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll give you the price sheets, and we're entrepreneurial. So when things were running out, I'd cross that off. I'd make my own prices. I'd triple it, if I supply and demand. And no one was doing that. And so we were most people who run these, and this is a little embarrassing, but they're usually not-for-profit organizations that will partner with TNT Fireworks for their cause. And so people would come and say, "Oh, who are you supporting?" And it was so embarrassing
My
to
family.
say, "My wedding." And so because of that, though, because we had that business entrepreneurial mindset, we were doing things that you wouldn't do otherwise, right? Because we were doing it with that motive in mind. And I think our work previously in politics helped us because we were good in a pinch. We didn't mind that things were really hectic in a short period of time. And that has remained true as we've been flexible and been able to adapt. And that's needed in politics.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
Business, right?
they're a great company for anybody who wants a little side hustle. TNT Fireworks. You can do these little consignment shops. They put up these temporary locations, and they contract with organizations or people to run them for 10 or 15 days, and you make the difference, right? And we ended up doing that for perhaps 4 years. 1 year in Indiana and 3 years in Pennsylvania. And every year we did it. There's crazy stuff. We could do a whole episode on the weird stuff that happened to us when we were doing the fireworks stuff. And it was crazy, but such a fun. I'm glad I did it now just for the stories.
Yeah.
But so that's what really got us going, though, because we really never thought of that. My parents weren't entrepreneurs. Kristen's parents weren't entrepreneurs. I just figured I'd have a job. I was ambitious in the fact that I got a college degree. Neither one of my mom had a nursing degree, but my dad did not go to college. And so they really wanted us to go. And, but never really thought. And I'm still, I think, my younger brother now owns his own business, but that's really what got us started. And it's been a crazy journey. And then by the time 2012 ran around, we did our very first ever presidential campaign, working first for Rick Santorum when he was running for president in 2012. He was beaten the primary by Mitt Romney, who then hired us to help him in the general election. And then in 2016, there were 17 Republicans who ran for that primary after Obama was up for retirement. We had that open race, and the Democrats were basically settled on Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders gave her a run for their money. Republicans were wide open. And the least likely candidate, in my opinion, short of maybe Ben Carson at the time, to win the primary, in my mind, was Donald Trump. And I had worked for Chris Christie on his governor's race in 2013. So he hired our firm and me to be his digital director for his super PAC for that presidential campaign in 16. And then Kristen, who'd worked more closely with Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin, she went to work for him. And we did like a firewall for the company. And then Scott Walker lasted only about 90 days before he had to drop out of the race. Chris Christie lasted through New Hampshire, and then he dropped out. And then we both went and worked for Ted Cruz, and we ran Indiana, where we live, for Ted Cruz when he was beat by Donald Trump, and so the Indiana was the last stand, right? He needed to win Indiana if he was going to beat Trump in the primary. Well, we ran Indiana. We organized 38 events for him. It was a fun thing, but then we got walloped by Trump, and Cruz actually dropped out that night. And a few days later, I called the Trump campaign and said, "Look, I've got some of the stuff we did for Cruz we could offer to Trump so that he can help his campaign as he faces off against Hillary." And the campaign manager, or the digital director for Trump at the time, and then became campaign manager later, was Brad Parscale. And he said, "I need a ton of help." He said, the digital department is me and two other part-timers. And now we're facing Hillary Clinton, who has, at that time, 250 digital staffers. What can you do? How many people can you send us? So we actually flew down to Texas, where Brad was located, and just to try to sort of check in on how we could help. And Kristen ended up staying for 5 months and living there in San Antonio and working full-time for the 2016 Trump race and managing a whole bunch of the digital operation, the texting campaigns, the app, and helping a ton
Kristen,
with
did you
email
text me?
fundraising. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Kurt, we shouldn't share all that. People are, cursing my name under their breath when they've gotten unsolicited, spammy
Well,
fundraising text messages.
we didn't do that in 2016.
And yes, we did. Well, I guess it
No, we didn't.
wouldn't have been spamming.
There was
They
no
would have been
peer-to-peer.
Yeah, they would have been on his texting list, but
They would have opted in.
we did send quite a few. So I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. And we do
I'm
do that
messing with you.
today.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. And yeah, you didn't ask for all of this background, Cory, but yeah, it
I'm
just
all
goes
in.
to
I think it's
show
cool. I love hearing it.
Yeah.
it's just the wild, wild west. And um, again, that really has served us, being flexible and adaptable. And I think it's what leads us to help so many entrepreneurs today, is because it all starts with mindset. And I know you'll appreciate this. Just being able to see opportunity, pivot, try something, iterate, shift, find what works. It's so needed in life, but in business, because nothing stays the same, right? Things are always changing. And so you have to be able to roll with it. And so we've built some very strong muscles in that area, because of how we have built and grown our business.
I'll tell you what I heard out of all of that is that Donald Trump became president in 2016 because of what you guys did. That's what I heard. I'm just saying what I heard. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Hey.
it's
we
yeah.
played a part,
yeah,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of people who were on
you
that
can't read
thing.
him off, like so many others. And so you can't really listen to anything we say fully, because we clearly don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as election day approached in 2016, we had raised him probably close to $60 million from small dollar donors for his campaign, but he raised it over 300 million. So there were still a lot of people doing other work. But as Kristen said, I didn't think he'd win. I wanted him to win. I didn't think he was going to. And I think a lot of Americans didn't. And then he won, and quite decisively in 2016. But yeah, we were glad to play that role there. But I'm always careful to not claim too much credit.
I'm messing with you. When it comes to politics, politics is really, it's kind of polar, right? And so I'm curious what like you guys went to college for that. Like, what was it that sparked your initial interest in politics in the first place? Like, was it something when you were a little kid, or was there a certain moment? Like, what triggered that for you guys?
Well, it's a great question. And as anything, Kurt's and my stories are different. We did go to Indiana Wesleyan University, a great, great, great school, and, small Christian college. And, Kurt, we just couldn't be more different. I mean, he when he talks about his background, he talks about how he was in high school going to school with a briefcase. I mean, he just like had that, and he got turned on to Rush Limbaugh, and he would listen and record, because it was on too late when he would past his bedtime, and he'd record it as a high schooler and then get up early in the morning to watch it. And who does that, And so I laugh and I tease him, but for me, really, it was understanding worldview. And so it was very different in most traditional schools. I imagine whether it's a state university or a private liberal arts, it's probably fairly similar, but they usually teach more tactics, campaign strategy. They're going to teach you about polling and messaging and focus groups, and all the different things you might need to know from a strategic perspective on running a campaign. But at Indiana Wesleyan, we had absolutely none of that. It was so much more about worldview. What do you believe in? Why? And what are the natural consequences of each of these systems of government? And for me, that's what helped me align my faith with what I thought made for the best, political governmental system. And so outside of that, I thought I was going to be pre-law. I really wanted, truth, justice, and the American way. I knew I wanted to fight for some sort of cause. And, but having that, we had an amazing professor, as so many people I'm sure do, who just have those people that really move you and inspire you. And Glenn Martin was his name, and he really did that for me. But very different, because Kurt was hooked on politics at a young age.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, politics very addictive, right? It's so consequential what you're doing, and I think for me that's what I wanted. I didn't want to do something that I felt like was only touching at the edges. We always hear that story of that people tell that might be apocryphal about the stonecutters, right? Who were building a cathedral, and one of them says, when he asks what he's doing, well, I'm cutting stone, and the next guy says, no, I'm building a cathedral, right? I always wanted to be really building the cathedral. Yeah. And what more than politics? In fact, prior to wanted to get in politics, I wanted to be a preacher, right? And I met with our preacher at the time. He came over for dinner with my parents and told him that. And he said, well, I'll give you the same advice I was given. He said, you shouldn't become one unless you feel like God will strike you down if you don't, right? You have to have a real calling. It's not something you do because you think giving speeches is cool. You gotta like really feel God's calling to get into the ministry. And I thought, I don't feel that. I don't think God would strike me down. I don't think that's not my motivation. So politics felt like equally consequential, right? And it's really cool business to be in. You write something for one of your clients, and then you're driving somewhere, and somebody's showing it on CNN, and you're thinking, I wrote that today, And so it's really cool, and you feel like you're making a difference. And it's probably what in part has led us to do more work with businesses, is because you think, I'm going to go to DC, I'm going to help elect a bunch of Republicans, and the sea will part, the sun will come out, and everything's going to be okay. And after a while you realize, wait a second, that's not happening. And it isn't because our clients are bad people. We work with a lot of these politicians. I think in the U.S. we give our politicians a bit more trouble than they deserve. Most of them are really good people, even on both sides, and really want to do good. Some of them have bad ideas, but really care. But they get out to D.C. and it's a really tough system. It's really tough to get something to happen. There's trillions of dollars at stake, so every little thing becomes a giant, massive fight. And we thought, after a while, I realized, well, none of these politicians are going to save us, right? If we think by putting faith in these people that the sun's going to come out and the Red Sea will part, our faith's in the wrong place.
Yes.
And to some extent, we learned that we loved running the business as much, if not more, than working with our political clients. We had 50 employees at one point, and so about 35 now. But you realize I'm supporting 50 families. I'm paying for 50 lunches, 50 dinners, 50 breakfasts. I'm paying for college for some people. Whatever the salary is covering, and maybe I'm making more difference right now in the economy than my congressional client who's spent the last 10 years fighting for even small changes to be made and still struggling to get it done.
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me, and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now.
And we thought, we got to get out there with some of these Christian and conservative businesses and really help them grow. We recently talked to somebody on our own podcast who did a count. And he said, I counted up all my clients, all my employees, all my vendors, and realized there's 1,500 people that I'm having an effect on every day. And that's my mission field. And so that's really impacted us. We said, it's not that we're getting out of politics. We're still helping a lot of these great people, but businesses can make as much, if not more, impact than our political clients can. And so to get to kind of make it all, come together, you get involved in politics because you want to change the world. After a while, you realize, well, that's one way, but there's a lot of other ways to do it. And many of them might actually be more effective.
That's good. I like that. Well, at an early age, my mom and several people in the family would tell me, they would always say, you're either going to be a preacher or a politician. I was like, I don't want to be either. And all I know now is I know who to call if I want to run for state senate for Mississippi. If I want to run for senator for Mississippi, I know who I'm calling. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's there. I say the same thing, by the way, to politicians that my preacher friend told me. I say you got to really want it, because it's both the most rewarding thing you ever do in your life, running for office, and the most miserable at the same time, because you're gonna make a big difference. You can have a big impact, but it's also going to be tough, and people are going to say bad things about you,
It's
and
hard
people
on
are going to,
your
yeah, it's hard on your family. People are going to question your motives, and you got to really want it.
Yeah.
You can't do it because
Well,
you think it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
well, I want to talk a little bit about behind you guys. I know those listening to the podcast, not on YouTube, can't see this, but you got a sign behind you. It says Liberty Spenders, and that's what you guys are doing right now and focusing in on entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit about what is a Liberty Spender and what do you guys do?
So this is something interesting. We're not the first ones probably to realize this, but we've really seen growth here. There's been a rapid change in consumer behavior in the last few years, maybe the last decade, really. A significant number of consumers on all sides of the political spectrum are now considering the values of the companies that they are buying from as part of their buying decisions. So they're no longer just looking at your widget saying your widget's better than the other widget or cheaper than the other widget. That's all that matters. They're now interested in knowing, does your business support the causes they support, or does your business oppose those things? Are you engaged in policies and other ideas like DEI policies that many people consider to be race driven, or other kind of, particularly from the right, other kind of woke policies they don't appreciate. And many of those consumers are the same people we've been talking to on behalf of our Republican friends. They're the same people donating $25 to Ted Cruz or Brian Kemp or Pete Ricketts, are also the same kind of people who are buying cats and cars and homes and coffee. And they're looking at each one of the vendors and saying, am I willing to support this company? We call those people Liberty Spenders, people who are Christian or conservative, who are considering those brands, Christian or conservative ideals, as part of their purchasing decision. And then we wanted to know, how many of them are there, right? Is this a audience of 50,000, 500,000, 5 million? What are we looking at? So because we're from politics, we are, we have our 300 million person database of voters, and we thought, let's do a nationwide survey, and then let's figure out how many of these 300 million are Liberty Spenders. And so we did that, took a couple of months, but came up with 76.5 million Americans who are either Christian or conservative, and considering those values when they make a decision. About 45 million of the 76.5 million would like to know a company's values are both Christian and conservative. And then the remaining 30 million are one or the other. They care about Christian values, but not conservative values not Christian values. And so what we've done is we said, look, we know who these people are. They're the same people we can be talking to for 18 to 20 years to get them to give money to our political clients. Let's help businesses sell their widgets or services to these folks. And so we've really been, since April, really engaging in that full time. We wrote a book about these Liberty Spender people and how to talk to them and how to sell to them. They spend $5 trillion a year, so they're a great audience for your business. In fact, this is my pitch moment. You can go to libertyspenders.com/principles for the people who are listening to your podcast, and then get a free copy if they're listeners, and they can download it. And it's a really cool explanation of the whole concept.
Yeah. So kind of what I heard you guys say is a Liberty Spender is someone who is a Christian, has the Christian values, and they are a consumer, and they're considering, when they look at different products or services, they're looking at, hey, are they supporting, the LGBTQ agenda, or they supporting sex trafficking and those kind of things, and they're making buying decisions based off the values of those businesses. That kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to further add clarity, Edelman, which is one of the largest PR companies in the world, Gallup, so many of these people that do surveys all the time, they've been noticing this trend growing for the last many years. And so it is now more than 50% of people that care about that, of consumers. Now it can be across the issue spectrum. But what we discovered in our model was we were asking people, not just are they looking at it, but are you more likely to buy from a business or brand if they use this type of messaging? And so when the light bulb really went off was, okay, we feel called, we know we can help business owners succeed. We know that the marketplace is polarized, it's busy, it's loud. There's a real struggle to differentiate your business. How do you grow? How do you find new clients? How do you attract people to you? We've talked to so many business owners who just feel like they're on this hamster wheel. It's like, okay, I'm chasing my revenue goals. I get there, I got to start all over. And what occurred to us was not only are people looking for this, but this is a great potential business marketing strategy because now you can attract people based on who you are. You can live out your values in an authentic way. And now you're building a loyal tribe of people that aren't just excited to buy your product or service because it's good, but they're really aligned on the foundational level. And so they're more loyal, they're more likely to refer you. So there's all these other tangential benefits for businesses if that's something they're interested in doing. And so that's really what got us excited was we know that there's a trend in the marketplace. We know that people are standing up and saying, hey, I really don't like giving my money to these companies when they're hostile to my values, but how do I find an alternative? And that's where we see the potential is helping these business owners not only find these people, talk to them, but use it as a growth strategy, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and as I'm hearing you talk, I actually can kind of see that as well. You asked me before we got going. I told you about a friend I have up in Northwest Indiana. He's probably listening, but you asked me how did I get connected with him? Well, it was through a Facebook ad that I wrote out, and it was geared towards faith-based entrepreneurs who are looking to grow themselves or grow their business, but not at the expense of their faith, family, or the fitness. But I worded it in such a way that it spoke to me and it spoke to him. And that's kind of what you're saying. And I do it as well, right? Like I buy based on some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people, as a general marketing principle, they want to be everything. And it's so much powerful, in our opinion, to be something to somebody than everything to nobody.
Yeah.
And so as your example is perfect, there's a lot of potential coaches or speakers that people could hire. If you Googled, motivational speaker or speaker for my business retreat, I don't know how many results you'd get, probably hundreds, not thousands. And so how do you make yourself look different? And the answer is, well, maybe these people are looking for a speaker that comes from a place of faith, or a speaker who is going to represent their conservative values. And then on kind of the negative side of it, there are people who are worried, well, I don't want to invite somebody into my business that's going to create problems because they're engaging in values that aren't aligned with my people. They're encouraging to have race-based hiring practices, or encouraging us to donate or be involved in causes that we don't support. So that's that's kind of the, if you will, there's the negative side of like what might drive somebody away from you. You saw that with Walmart, right? Just last week, Walmart announced a bunch of policy changes because they were getting feedback from their customers. They didn't appreciate their DEI policies, that they're hiring vendors based on whether or not the vendor is a minority. So they're essentially engaging in affirmative action policies and saying, if you're a minority business owner, we're going to buy from you. So it's a race-based vendor policy, or they're engaging in other DEI initiatives. They were sharing employee and other data with LGBT organizations, and they walked much of that back as a response to complaints from their consumers. And so, that's the kind of thing. There's a positive side to it, like, hey, you can attract people, but there's also kind of you know, people are looking to get away from businesses they think are kind of counter to their values.
Yeah, yeah. But that kind of goes into the old marketing thing that we talk about, finding your ideal client. You're trying to find
Yeah.
an ideal client, right? You attract that ideal client by some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's we call it conviction driven marketing in our book. It's the idea that find that ideal client not based on demographics alone, find them based on what are their convictions. Because the demographics are ultimately meaningless in many ways. But when you can connect with people on the level of their convictions, you've got them. And we also discuss the concept of renting versus owning. When your only connection with your customer or client is the fact that they think your product is 15% more functional than your competitor or 15% cheaper, you're in a tough place, because in this marketplace, anyone can come running in just a couple of hours and say, I'll offer you something similar for 20% cheaper, or hey, I just came up with a new innovation. And so what you want is the kind of rent owning kind of relationship you can have with a customer when you're connected with them on the level of convictions and not just on features and benefits and price and that sort of thing. Those things go away. And it's hard to keep that going in this marketplace these days.
Well, let me ask you this, Kurt. So if I got my business there and I want to start, I love what you're saying. What would you suggest as a first step if I really wanted to start tapping into that and be more strategic with my outreach and marketing and values based? Like, what would be like a good first step right there?
Well, we teach the 5 Ps in our book. Every company who wants to engage in conviction-driven marketing needs to align on the 5 Ps. First, it's kind of understanding the people. We like to joke that no matter what you sell, there's a Liberty spender for that, right? So you work with businesses. We can tell you in our 76.5 million, which of those people own a business, right? Or which of them are professionals that make a certain amount of money. And so you want to start with people. You want to understand your positioning. That's key. Some businesses that market in this way are really open and out front. So your Facebook campaign you ran, you are very open that you're a person of faith in that ad and you're looking for other people of faith. Chick-fil-A, which is one of the best known companies that I would say really has run up the score with Liberty spenders, never once says any of that in their marketing. Yeah. Now, they're closed on Sunday, so you kind of get it. But their billboards have cows telling you to eat more chicken, right? It's not, there's no faith marketing in it. Now, Hobby Lobby is more upfront about it. That's another $7.5 billion a year business that are run by people of faith. They run ads in the newspapers with Jesus in the ads. You know who these people are. You can't walk into a Hobby Lobby and not realize that these people are people of faith, because it's all over. They're selling Christian books at the exit. They have a bunch of Christian themed decor, products, the whole deal. So getting your positioning right, knowing how you want to talk about it is key. Having a good story. So, we also talk about proof in our 5P model and also how to do a product rollout. But I suspect the best way to answer your question, they can always pick up our book. That's an easy way to do it. But we give it away for free. So there's no cost to anybody to pick it up and pick up some tools. And then once they do that and they get kind of familiar, it's really just understanding, I think, what is best aligned. If you're going to start anywhere, what's best aligned? Some people are very comfortable talking about their faith, don't want to talk about their politics, and that's okay, right? Some people are a little more comfortable talking about their politics, but not their faith. So really figuring out what's really aligned, because the worst thing to do here is to say, I really want to do this conviction-driven marketing thing, and then talking about yourself or your business in a way that's not true, right? You wouldn't want to pretend to be a person of faith. We've all been pitched by vendors who talk about their faith a ton, and you just get this vibe that that's a sales tactic, not a not an authentic thing.
Yeah.
And so I think read the book, look at the 5 Ps, but probably the first place to start would be what's really authentic
Yeah.
to you.
I like that. That's good. So if there's somebody listening out there and there's like, oh man, I like the sound of that. I can see that. Like if they wanted to reach out to you, one, how do they do that? And then what is it like working with you guys? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So, we right now we still take a very bespoke approach to folks. You can find us, go to libertyspenders.com/principles and get the book. There's also contact us on the page, so you can reach out to us directly. We do a discovery call with people and just kind of get a sense of what is it that they need, how can we help, and then make recommendations from there. And for some people, we've guided them almost as an outside consultant. Other people really come in almost like a marketing agency, and we can and are capable of doing everything from running ads to helping them with public relations or getting them in front of conservative or Christian influencers, a whole host of things we can do. So it's pretty, we like to look and see what the client needs and develop a plan with them as opposed to just giving them some kind of cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I could emphasize something, it's just that, Kurt alluded to it. We wrote this book and we're not trying to sell it or make money from it. I really think this can be helpful to take some things that we've learned and consider it. But the other thing that's exciting, just for people to put in the back of their heads, if this is something interesting, is, Kurt alluded to other things we do with marketing, but there's a lot you can do that doesn't cost money.
Mm-hmm.
So, people just think, oh, how am I going to do this, right? If I'm going to market, okay, I got to run ads, I got to do all these things. And yes, that probably makes sense for a lot of people. But what is a great, exciting thing about this audience is that we are so close-knit. And so, again, we talked about referrals, word of mouth, things really spread. And that also means that you can utilize influencers, you can utilize events, joint ventures, strategic partnerships. There's so many ways to look at this from a product or service business, grow your business that isn't just, okay, I guess we're going to run a bunch of money, run a bunch of ads to this group. And again, that can make sense. But what's been so exciting to see is all the number of businesses that are using this type of marketing, but they're growing beyond just paying to get those new customers. And that's something that you can only do with such a tight-knit group built on values, right? It's events you can go to. It's, again, partnerships you can make. And so there's a lot you can do. And that's, again, why we're giving away this information for people to consider at no cost, is just look at it, consider it, because I really think we have to do more to support people that, again, who are trying to be good employers. They're trying to be good, community citizens, and we have to support each other and help them grow their business.
Yeah. I love that. It's good stuff. Well, guys, you guys have added a ton of value to me. There's something, a lot of that you said stood out to me, but one thing you said, there's 76.5 billion?
Million.
Okay.
76.5 million.
Okay.
Maybe it's, we're not quite at 76.5 billion. Maybe in a few decades, we'll see, but 76.5 million Americans. So we haven't surveyed anyone overseas, although Liberty Spenders exist everywhere, but 76.5 million Americans.
And they're spending 5 trillion, right?
Yep.
That's that's a powerful stat.
Every year. And so, and these people, they buy everything. I try to tell folks, sometimes I'll talk to them about this concept. I think, okay, that probably works for Black Rifle Coffee Company, but it wouldn't work for my business. And I tell people there's a Liberty Spender for any product or service, because they're all just normal people.
Yeah.
So they all need to buy toilet paper. They all need, and they're saying to themselves, I don't want to buy toilet paper from this big conglomerate who I know is paying to fly their employees across the country to get abortions. And they'd much rather buy it from a company that aligns with their values. And they're the kinds of people who might be willing to spend a little bit more or incur a little bit more inconvenience to buy something that might take a little more time to obtain because they care about things like that. And so that's the other takeaway from that is, Liberty spenders buy everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Kurt and Kristen, I really have enjoyed our conversation. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. I love the stories about starting out. It's so entrepreneurial the way you started out. I was like, yeah, let's. How are we going to pay for our wedding? Well, let's sell fireworks. Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's so entrepreneurial. And so just really want to say thank you guys for coming on. And one more time, I know you've shared it twice already, but one more time, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, you said you've created a link and there's also an opportunity to download or to get your book on that link. So
yes.
What was that link again?
It's libertyspenders.com/principles. And you can download a PDF copy of our book there. And you can also download a couple other things. Plus, you can book a time with us if you'd like to chat.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll have that in the show notes as well, so you guys can check that out. And really highly recommend you guys connecting Kurt and Kristen. Stay up to date with what they're doing. I think that's good stuff. And I really want to say appreciate you guys for coming on. Thank you for your time. And also thank you guys for taking a listen. And if there's something Kurt and Kristen shared that really stood out to you, make sure to comment or reach out to them. Let them know how they made an impact on you. And make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. And we hope you guys have a great day and God bless.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.